Yay for doctor's orders! That felt like the best night's sleep I've had in a while, which is kind of usual for me. I tend to sleep better on trail. I might enjoy one more cup of coffee and then I gotta get going. It's gonna get kind of warm out here today. I'm a little sad that Jen's down there drinking her matcha without me, but I am enjoying being up here. The real unfortunate thing about not having done videos and doing journaling instead for the 2020 PCT is I have so many memories from being out there, but there's also a lot of sections that just kind of faded into the background. I really wish I could go back in time and record that, particularly since it was so unique with all the closed down services and lack of a lot of the standard trail angels. Really made it more of kind of a wilderness experience, which is exactly what I wanted. I obviously get out on sections of the PCT fairly often. It's just so convenient, particularly for the time of year when I'm usually ramping up. But unfortunately, even if I took an entire season and tried to do the PCT again, I don't think it would be nearly as memorable as it was the first time. Both just due to having seen the trail before and the crowds. It felt just so close-knit in 2020 because there's only a couple hundred of us out there. There wasn't like floods of people everywhere. And due to hostility from the PCT hiker organization and some people online, it ended up being really close-knit. I'm about 90% sure I camped up here when I came through originally. I remember Jen met me a little past Warner Springs because at the time we didn't know what the situation was with COVID. It was still kind of touch and go days around the lockdowns. And so I avoided town stops for the first while. Jen was on emergency distance learning, meaning she was teaching from her car and laptop. So she just brought me the resupplies. That lasted until Julian, where I started going into the towns. That was also where I ended up coming down with Gerardia due to some stuff that happened on the Condor the first time. And then after that, she joined me at Hikertown, and we got to things proper. Like I was telling Jen yesterday, it's really nice when she comes and meets me, but that does give you extra things you have to worry and hassle about. Versus I just really love that feeling of being independent, everything on my back. Just have to worry about the next stop and get on forward. As far as today, I'm basically going to the trailhead by Mike's place, which is a major PCT water stop. Mike wasn't there when I went through in 2020, but he has a giant tank with a spigot that he somehow keeps stocked with water, which is great because the sources out here were a little on the sparse side. There is apparently a drive-up trailhead, so Jen's going to take the Jeep and meet me there. I get to do another 8 miles or so this morning, which I should be able to do before the heat gets too bad. Like I mentioned yesterday, we're actually colder than usual for this time of year. We're in the low 80s when I'd expect mid 90s with some variation, but by next week it's going to be back up into the 90s. That's why I took the opportunity to do something like this, which is down lower. I'll probably do more around like San Jacinto, Idlewild area next, just because, you know, get to altitude, get away from the heat without burning all the money and gas required to get up to the Sierra. Though I'm still holding on to the hope that Jen gets cleared for full activity a little early and we can run up and do something together. We have a lovely B&B on the Airbnb on the vineyard property. That has been quite pleasant and has made what has, quite frankly, been a pretty brutal couple of months as pleasant as it could be. But while Jen can be content everywhere, I gotta be moving. I can only sit around for so long before it just hits me in the mental health area. If it wasn't for the wilderness class and Jen's gainful employment, I would probably be on some sort of a year-round thing, which would mean doing the Florida Trail repeatedly pretty much. There's a few others like the Winter Desert Through Hike that Brett Tucker put together that look intriguing and you can do during the winter, but unfortunately a lot of the trails in the US share the same seasons. Fortunately, Jen absolutely adores her job. She has already been working on things for this upcoming year. And while she could have got the medical stuff dealt with during her school time, she didn't want to take the time off. So it was better everything worked out like this. She should be back basically to 100% in a couple of more weeks. Honestly, I'm recovered from the surgery. The HSP seems like it's managed. I am taking Cellcept for another couple of months just to prevent outbreaks, but that's manageable. And then it's just going to be dealing with the lower back issues, which has been the main thing bothering me today and yesterday. A lot of folks, especially first-timers or East Coasters, like to bag on the desert section of the PCT and act like it's something just to endure to get onto the Sierra. I really love this section, though. There's a lot more diversity than people expect. So, I mean, this in 80 miles or so, maybe, gets up to Idlewild where, you're around 10,000 feet. Drops back down to the desert, climbs up on the other side. You've got the deserty wind farms and just the awesome views. And this was on far out. People were worried there might have been somebody that was hurt or something back here. My guess was homeless. Especially that fire is a big no-no in this section. I have been day hiking pretty regularly. A couple of times a week I run out after the heat of the day and get about 5 to 7 miles on the PCT. The first part yesterday was a retread that I have done so many times. So I will probably have done, 200 miles or so on the PCT by the time I get back to trail proper. Jen laughs at me because I could have a teeny tiny pack for something like this. Reliable weather and all that. But I just have my normal through hiking kit that got me across the US. But like I told her, it doesn't do me any good to train for a really, really light pack when I know I'm going to have, 5 to 7 day food carries. Every hike is training for the next one. And my base weight is only about 19, 20 pounds or so. Varies a little bit depending on the season and if I have any extras with me. I'm sometimes playing with testing gear, this, that, or the other. That is a very manageable weight, and at least for me, I found it gives me the most flexibility. Since I like being out here and not being forced to run into town because a big storm came through or this, that, and the other. When Jen and I were on the AT in 2021, we actually rode out a hurricane on trail. Now, we were very careful with where we were, set up on a slope, yada, yada. But that was kind of cozy, being in a tent, safe in the forest, with all hell breaking loose. Yeah, I did stay up here in 2020, because that's Lost Valley Spring down there, which I remember getting water from. I think it was that to Mike's. and then it was dry for a while after. There was another really cool trail angel spot out here. I think it was a ways after Mary's place. She had a property that backed up to the trail, and she had a whole setup there with a water basin that she would fill and like an outdoor shower setup, places to camp. Unfortunately, I heard she sold the property because she had kind of problematic transients coming on the property, and they were confrontational, and she wasn't feeling safe being up there by herself, which is a shame. My thought at the time stopping there is I would totally live up here. Kind of the ideal for winter to me. Either here or like Arizona, New Mexico. More spread out, less traffic. And I just love the desert mountainous terrain. I also remember this section going really, really fast in 2020 because I randomly ran into another solo guy named Lost Larry who had done the trails in like 1984 when, you know, the AT still had a bunch of roadwalks and things. And there I was, you know, brand new through hiker, only 100 some miles in, asking him all sorts of questions and just going, oh, that must have been so cool. Versus now where I both love all the adventures I've had, and part of me is a little sad because you can't go back and do any of the big trails for the first time a second time. The sense of adventure setting out on something like the CDT was just really awesome. Yeah, I could do it again, but I know myself. The overlap sections tend to just not be quite as adventurous for me. That was why I was impatient to get through the Sierra back in 2020, because I knew every step of that from all the peak bagging, and I just wanted to get to NorCal where it was all new to me. And I am pretty sure I have more potential plans than I have time and health. But having done the big three and having done a fair smattering of trails beyond that, you really end up appreciating how, if not exactly easy, the big three are very straightforward. It is so relaxing and nice to be on the PCT, CDT, etc., versus having to worry about, you know, getting run over on roads, dog attacks, things like that. When I finished the PCT and came back to SoCal, the question I kept getting from friends is, what was the prettiest part of the PCT? Because they wanted to just do that. They didn't have time for the entire thing. And my comment kept being, you know, there's a lot of really pretty areas. Could say the Sierra, could see the Goat Rocks, you know, the usual things people bring up. But quite frankly, the cool thing about the PCT is just that it's there and it's set up so directly for continuous travel as far as you want to go. I was in a town every couple of days. Food carries, etc., were never that bad. Longest water carry was like 25 miles, which at the time seemed like a huge thing. And these days is kind of like, man, I was innocent back then. See, I just need somebody to invent the tech from Eternal Sunshine of the Spotless Mind. Then I can just zap myself, forget all about the PCT, do it again, be all thrilled, zap myself, go do the CDT again. Did I mention I went out of my way to pick an uphill section of the PCT just for added fun? So medication-wise, I have to take 3 of these pills twice a day, and the side effects are relatively minor, at least for the moment. So as Jen and I have finally both been in a condition where we can move around and leave the house, at least for the moment, one of our big goals has been get to storage and try and triage what remains of our belongings. When we moved out in 2019, we fit everything in a conversion van and a storage locker. But at the time, we didn't know, you know, was the van thing gonna last? Would we end up back in some sort of an apartment or something? So we got rid of most things, but we kept enough to have like a basic furniture set. So like a bed frame, mattress, couch. And then ever since, we've been slowly getting rid of more and more of that. And this past week, we actually drove the 2+ hours into Orange County, spent a couple of hours going to town on what's still in storage. All the paddle gear and everything's at the house because I was triaging that for the Yukon. And it's a lot more usable. I am organizing the gear that is left so we can get at it quickly as we come and go. We live a life out of bins, so I need everything that I can kind of grab as I need easily. And yeah, now we've pretty much divested ourselves of the last of that, because short of some sort of a major catastrophic development, we can't really see ourselves settling down full time. Jen's still really happy being in the campground during the week while she is working. The furnished rentals, like what we've been in, work well for the couple of months I'm back in town for the wilderness class. As long as I'm doing the wilderness class, we'll probably stick to doing that. And you just don't need all that much stuff. Every time I've been away from all the things I have, it becomes easier to get rid of more. The initial driver to just say, screw it, let's get rid of everything and do something different, was when I was in Thailand for 2 months after the summer of 2019. And, I was living out of a suitcase and came back. I'm looking around the apartment, and there were things I liked, there were things that were comfortable, but it didn't feel like holding myself back from doing the things I really, really wanted to do on account of just keeping stuff. I am a highly sentimental person, so it hurt like hell getting rid of a lot of that. It has hurt every time I let go of some last vestige of my old life when I was a gainfully employed IT person. But, I live out of a pack for the majority of every year. And when we're traveling around even, we're pretty mobile these days. We've got laptops instead of desktop computers, etc. All we need is a couple of bins and we're good to go. And there is a certain appeal to kind of living simpler like that. For about 5 years, I was commuting out to Boise. And for the last couple, I had an apartment out there. And I had, like one plate, one fork, one spoon, one knife, etc. And there was an appeal in that to me. It was just really simple. I had like a camp chair to sit in, mattress on the floor, no clutter. So easy to accumulate clutter. And we're careful what we buy, Jen more so than me, but thing is, like when we did the Mississippi, we upped our paddle gear quite a bit. When we prepped for the Yukon, we got more there. We hike, we scuba dive, we still have rock climbing gear. We've started to get rid of some of the specialized stuff, like we had a small kit of caving gear. And I'd really like to get back to that, but the possibility of needing like technical cave gear is fairly low. And, if it's a pair of knee pads, eventually you're looking at, there is a cost to every square foot of storage. Do I really need to save this ratty old pair of knee pads? Or can we just get another in the event we actually do that? And more these days, I just wear hiking clothes even when I'm around town. So I finally got rid of the last of my, business casual IT wear that had been sitting in the bottom of a bin for a while. So we still have more stuff than we would like. The storage locker is one of our bigger expenses these days, since we got rid of the van and the parking spot and all that. But we're doing pretty good considering the amount of activities we're doing regularly and how much gear we need. I've mostly gotten rid of all the spares because, you start to have a stove fritz out. You buy a new one, stick the old one in a bin as a backup. And then before you know it, you've got 3 or 4 old stoves and this, that, and the other. So we've also been trying to take a hard look at that stuff and go, okay, well, technically the sleeping bag is different than the two that I use primarily. However, what's the chance that I'm actually going to use it again? Relatively low. So we aren't quite done. I have a few more bins of things I need to triage at the house, mostly with an eye at having things organized better for next time. When we packed up at what was supposed to be the end of the last winter season, I was in the hospital, so Jen had to kind of throw everything together in between running back and forth to be there when I came out of surgery and everything. I think the biggest thing is just my triage stuff. I keep a box of the major spare things I might need, you know, sunscreen, wipes, extra underwear, stuff like that I haul out to my parents. So in the event something breaks, they can just toss it in a box and send it out to me quick. Very easy to get lost in the, well, what if this, and end up with too much stuff. So it's a eternal work in progress. I am still dealing with back pain, but I feel like this is the best I've felt while hiking since getting back out. So that's promising. The ironic thing is I tried to go out Thursday, I think it was, a couple of days ago, to hike San Jacinto again, and I was just feeling awful. I actually had to stop because I was feeling so bad on the drive, retreat back home and go back to bed. So as much as it might look like I'm almost back to my normal self, I am very much not quite. Don't have to be 100% though. Just have to be able to do stuff like this even if I'm doing it badly. World's most okay-ish and all that. I just connected to the satellites to send Jen a text message and let her know I was about 3.5 miles out. Apparently she was already at the trailhead and is walking my direction, because she is not as good as me at following doctor's directions after, major surgery or whatnot. I do believe I spy a wild blondie over there. Yay for doctor's orders! So Blondie has picked up new sun gloves, and I keep trying to figure out, there we go, what my association with these, and I've decided I keep thinking she must be out to look for the real killers. Too young.
Yeah, I think like Snow White gloves or something.
OJ. He was out on the golf course, so he said he was looking for the real killers? Yeah. Don't mind me, Blondie, just appreciating the views more than certain people. Remember all the crap you gave me for bringing you out into the desert and showing you awesome things? So this is actually one of the reliable water sources, and one of the ones I was debating using when I was trying to make a longer thing, but I'm just not sure if the guy fills the cistern this late in the year. Ooh, somebody has good taste in Jeep colors. Okay, so sadly, despite having good weather for another day or two, I am trying to ease into this and make sure I don't overdo it, because if I overdo it and give myself 2 weeks of an injury at this point, it is going to keep me out of the Sierra. And at this point, I want nothing to keep me out of the Sierra short of death. And even then, I might want my body dragged in. Just hang it in a tree in a funny pose. So all good, and now in about 2 days, I think, we're gonna go do San Jacinto just as a day hike, because Jen has to go into OC for like paid job sort of things that she's always going on about. And then probably trying to do a backpack up Idlewild from Paradise Cafe or so. We'll see. I did always say if I was going to freeze to death, I would aspire to making the YMCA-like motions with my frozen corpse, just to make sure the SAR people were like cheered up. I just try and make people's day a little brighter, excuse me.